Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions in all of fitness. What is it really that makes our muscles grow?
For years, the go-to answer you'd get in any gym was all about this huge chemical reaction in your body. But what if I told you the real science is way more direct? It's happening at a level that's smaller, faster, and honestly, way cooler than you probably think. All right, let's get into it. Before we get to the new stuff, we've got to talk about the old school idea that pretty much ran the show for years. It's called the hormone hypothesis. And look, the idea makes a lot of sense, right? You go to the gym, you lift heavy stuff, and your body responds by flooding your system with these growth-promoting hormones, things like testosterone and growth hormone. The theory was that this big hormonal wave travels all through your blood, gets to your muscles, and basically tells them, hey, time to rebuild and get bigger. And for a long, long time, this was just what everyone believed. But here's where it gets interesting. When scientists really started putting this idea under the microscope, a funny thing happened. The story it wasn't adding up. The data they were seeing didn't quite fit this nice, clean explanation. So what was the problem? Well, it all came down to timing. And a ton of studies confirm this. Yeah, lifting heavy does cause a hormone spike. No doubt about that. But, and this is the real kicker, that spike is super short. We're talking like 30 minutes tops. So researchers started scratching their heads thinking, wait a minute, can a signal that brief really be the main reason for a long-term process like building muscle? And this kicked off a huge debate. On one side, you've got this classic idea of a body-wide hormone-fueled growth spurt. But on the other side, you had more and more studies showing that these quick little hormone spikes, they just didn't match up with how much muscle people were actually gaining over time. You had people getting bigger and stronger even when their post-workout hormone rush was, well, pretty small. Which, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question. If this big hormonal flood isn't the main thing driving growth, then what is? Well, the answer isn't in your bloodstream. It's actually way closer to the action. We have to zoom right into the muscle cell itself, where we find a much more direct and honestly more elegant system at play. So let's go there. Let's go right into the muscle fiber, because on a microscopic level, that's where the real action is. Okay, so the current thinking revolves around a process with a really cool kind of sci-fi name, mechanotransduction. Now, that sounds complicated, but the idea is actually super simple. It just means your cells can feel physical force, like tension or a stretch, and they can turn that physical feeling directly into a chemical signal. It's basically like your muscle cells have their own built-in sense of touch. So how exactly does a cell feel something? Well, your muscle cells are covered in these amazing little protein structures called focal adhesions. The best way to picture them is like tiny little anchors, or maybe even tension sensors. They physically connect the inside of the cell, its little skeleton, to the world outside. They're the literal connection between the force you're creating with a weight and all the important machinery inside the cell. And this sets off a direct, lightning-fast chain reaction. Step 1, you lift a weight. That creates physical tension that pulls on the muscle fiber. Step 2, those focal adhesions are little sensors. They detect that stretch instantly. Step 3, this wakes up a key protein called focal adhesion kinase. We can just call it FAK. Now think of FAK as the foreman on a construction site. It starts shouting orders, kicking off this whole cascade of signals inside that one cell, telling it, all right, team, time to start building more protein. It's a totally direct local command. Okay, so let's zoom back out for a second. What does all this microscopic stuff actually mean for your workout and how we think about muscle growth? Here's the bottom line, the most important part of all of this. The main signal for your muscles to grow isn't some secondary message like a hormone that has to travel all the way through your blood. No, the message is the tension itself. The physical load you put on that muscle is detected directly by those cells, and they respond immediately, right there on the spot. It's like the load is the email, and mechanotransduction is the cell opening and reading it instantly. This shift in thinking from a body-wide chemical idea to a local mechanical one, it's actually a huge deal in exercise science. It completely changes the way we picture what's happening inside our bodies when we work out. So let's wrap up the key points here. What science is showing us now is that muscle growth is first and foremost a local thing. It's triggered directly by mechanical force. And while those post-workout hormone spikes are definitely real, they just aren't the main driver of long-term growth. Instead, it's that physical tension, the stretch on the cell felt by those focal adhesions, that's what's directly telling the cell to get bigger and stronger. It's just an amazing reminder that there's this incredibly complex world humming away inside every single one of our cells, constantly responding to what we do. And it kind of leaves you with a final question to chew on, right? If the common knowledge about something as basic as muscle growth was off the mark for so long, what other facts about our own bodies are just waiting for us to discover the real story?